Welcome to this Figma web design tutorial. In this video, we will create a web page for a web design company we'll call Lexa, starting from scratch. I have included the link to the project in the description, so you can follow along. Click the link and start designing with me. Let's take a look at the structure of our project. On the right side, we have all the assets we will be using: text, images, and icons. These will be added to the design as we build the page. On the left, we have our wireframe, which outlines the basic layout of our web page. This will serve as our guide as we bring the design to life. Now that we have an overview of our wireframe and assets, we're ready to start designing. In the Tools panel below, click on Frame to add a new frame. From the available options, select Desktop as the frame size. The frame is now added to the workspace, ready for design. Since the page will contain multiple sections, the frame size needs adjustment. Drag the bottom edge up and down to explore different sizes. To fit all the content, extend the frame downward, allowing enough space for the full page layout. Let's go ahead and adjust the background color of the frame. First, select the frame to access its properties. In the right panel, under the Fill section, click to open the color picker. You can choose any background color to match your design. Let's explore a few options. For a clean and modern look, let's stick to the white color. Let's go ahead and add a layout grid to help align our design elements. First, select the frame to access its design settings. In the right panel, click on Layout Grid to enable it. Change the grid type to columns for better structuring of content. Next, adjust the alignment by changing it from stretch to center. Set the column count to 12, a standard layout for responsive web design. Adjust the column width to 75 to create balanced spacing. Finally, set the gutter to 24 to maintain consistent spacing between columns. The layout grid is now set, providing a clear structure for placing design elements. Next, we'll start designing the header section. Since my Figma canvas is in dark mode, I set the text color to white for visibility. However, when I move it into the frame, it becomes invisible against the white background. Let's start by adding the top menu to our frame. I'll select it and drag it into place. I'm aligning the text with the right edge of the last column in the layout grid to keep it structured. As expected, the white text isn't visible on the white background. To fix this, we need to change its color. I'll update the text color to black so it stands out on the white background. Let's refine the spacing between the menu items to ensure proper alignment. I'll start by adjusting the home text, moving it slightly to the left. As I do this, a drag line guide appears to help me align it with the rest of the menu. And there we go. I've slightly lowered the home text below the others, exactly as planned. Don't worry, I've got a cool fix for this later. Let's tidy up the rest of the menu text for even spacing. Select the menu items, then go to the menu bar and choose Tidy Up. This ensures everything is evenly spaced and perfectly aligned. Using the Tidy Up option is a great way to keep your UI structured and visually appealing. Now let's position the logo properly by dragging it to the left side of the screen. I'm aligning it with the first line of the layout grid on the left to maintain a clean and structured layout. Perfect. The logo is now in place, ensuring proper alignment and visual balance with the menu. Let's hide the layout grid to get a clear view of our page. You can see how our page looks without the grid, making it easier to focus on the design elements. Ready for the next step? Let's go ahead to drag the header text into the frame and make a few adjustments. I'll change its color to black so it's clearly visible. Next, I'll align it to the left for a clean and structured look. Do you now see the importance of the layout grid? It helps with precise alignment and spacing. That looks much better. You see how the layout grid helps with precise alignment and spacing. Let's go ahead and refine the text by adjusting the font, size, and weight. Instead of changing the font, I think we should leave it at Enter. It keeps the design simple and readable. A larger font size makes the header more prominent. That looks much better. The header is bold, structured, and perfectly aligned. Let me know what you think in the comments. Let's bring in the subtext that goes below the heading and make the necessary adjustments. Just like before, I'll change the color and align it to the left to keep everything structured. The subtext matches the heading, keeping the design consistent. The heading text looks a bit plain, so let's add some visual interest by highlighting a key part of it. I'll change its color to match an accent from the image outside the frame. Let's go to the Fill section in the right panel. This is where we control colors. To pick a custom color from an image, click on the Color Picker tool. This is the little eyedropper icon. I'll hover over the image and select a warm, vibrant shade from this long-sleeve t-shirt. And done. The text now looks more dynamic and visually appealing. Let's create the 2 buttons following our wireframe. First, we'll start by adding text. To add text, press T on your keyboard or navigate to the toolbar and select the Text tool. Hold Alt or Option, then drag the text to the right. Let's change the duplicated text to view more. Next, let's create the button shape. Select the Rectangle tool and draw a rectangle over Contact Us. Let's make the button visually consistent by picking the same color as High Performance, using the eyedropper tool. Now we'll add some rounded corners for a softer look. Set the corner radius to 10 pixels. As you can see, the rectangle is covering the text. Let's fix that by going to the Layers panel and moving the rectangle below the text. We'll align the text to the center of the rectangle using the alignment guides. To match the text color readable, let's change its color to white. We'll also change the font weight to medium and add a bit of letter spacing to make the text look cleaner and more professional. To keep things organized, let's group the rectangle and text by selecting both and pressing Command+G. Finally, we'll rename the group to Button so we can easily find it later. For the second button, we'll follow a slightly different approach. Let's start by drawing a rectangle over the View More text, just like we did before. Make sure the rectangle size is 190 by 51 pixels for consistency. This time, we're going to remove the fill. To do this, go to the Fill section and click on the minus icon or uncheck the Fill option. Next, let's add a stroke. Below the Fill option, locate the Stroke section and click the plus icon to enable it. Set the stroke width to 1 pixels. To match the design, we'll change the stroke color by using the eyedropper tool. Let's also change the text color to match the stroke. Just like before, let's group the text and the rectangle by pressing Command+G. Finally, we'll rename the group. Let's move on to the next part of our hero section. Let's draw a rectangle on the right panel. Select the Rectangle tool from the toolbar or press R on your keyboard. We'll set the rectangle's dimensions to 287 pixels wide and 452 pixels high for a precise layout. Let's adjust the corner radius of our rectangle. Select the shape, then navigate to the Corner Radius Input field on the right panel and enter 141. Let's create a circle on top of our shape. Select the Ellipse tool and click on the canvas. We'll set the dimensions to 161 pixels by 161 pixels. To create a second circle, hold Alt, click the first circle, and drag it downward. This places the duplicate at the bottom of the shape. Now, let's add a linear gradient to our shape. Select the rectangle, go to the Fill section, click the color box, and choose Gradient. Make sure Linear is selected. For the first color, we'll use the color picker to select the lighter part of the t-shirt in the image. For the second color, let's choose the darker part of the t-shirt to create a smooth blend. Let's move the circles below the main shape in the Layers panel to maintain the correct layering. Next, let's add a stroke to the main shape. Go to the Stroke section, click on the plus icon. Set the color to white and adjust the weight to 4. Now, let's bring in our image with a transparent background and position it perfectly on top of the shape. To make the design pop, let's darken the main shape's color slightly. For the first circle, let's go for a dark shade. For the second circle, let's go with a purple color to create contrast. Moving on to the next section. Let's take a look at our wireframe for guidance. In this section, we'll be adding some icons and text to enhance the design. Let's drag the icons into the frame. First, let's draw a square with a size of 81 by 81 pixels. To soften the edges, we'll set the corner radius to 19. Let's change the color of the shape to make it stand out. Next, we'll drag the first icon into the shape and center it properly. Let's bring in the text for this section. Since you already understand this process, I'll fast forward through adding and aligning the text. Let's go ahead and group the text, shape, and icon together. With everything selected, press Command+G or Control+G on Windows to group them. Now let's duplicate the group 3 more times, so we have a total of 4 items. Each group should be aligned to 3 columns of the layout grid for a balanced structure. Next, let's replace the second icon. First, select the second icon from the icons below. Press Command+X to cut it. Right-click on the second item's icon. I want to change the background colors to insert the new icon and make them a little bit transparent. To do that, I'll select the first shape and open the color picker. In the color picker, I'll select the lighter, almost white part of the color spectrum to give it a subtle look. I'll now repeat the process for the other shapes to keep a consistent design across all elements. Moving on to the next section. Here, we're going to add a title and a subtitle following our wireframe. I'll set the font to Poppins and set the size to 33 for a clean and professional look. Next, I'll align the text properly. In the Position tab, I'll click on Center Align to make sure the title is perfectly cantered on the page. I'll add the subtitle below the title, keeping the same font, but reducing the size slightly to maintain a clear hierarchy. Now, let's complete the last part of this section. This layout is identical to the Hero section, so you should be able to follow along easily. Since this process is repetitive, I'll fast forward through this part. And there we have it. This section is now complete, and everything is well aligned and structured. Let's move on to the next section, Testimonials. We'll start by typing the text Testimonials and aligning it to the center of the page. Now, let's enable the layout grid to help with precise alignment. Next, we'll draw a rectangle that spans 4 lines of the layout grid. To give it a smoother look, let's set the corner radius to 20. For the color, let's pick the same purple shade we used for the icon above to keep everything consistent. Now, let's add a circular frame at the top center of the rectangle. This will hold our testimonial image. Next, we'll drag the image of the lady from outside the frame into the circle. To properly mask it, select both the ellipse and the image, right-click, and choose Use as Mask. Now you can adjust the image size and position it perfectly within the mask. Now, let's bring in the testimonial text and center align it within the rectangle. And there we have it. Our testimonial card is taking shape. Next, we'll duplicate this to create multiple testimonials. All right, moving on to the call to action section. Let's start by setting up the structure. Let's start by drawing a rectangle that spans from the very beginning of the layout grid to the last part. This will serve as our call to action background. Let's also give it a subtle gray color to make it stand out, but still blend well with the rest of the design. To make it look softer, let's add a corner radius of 30. Let's draw another rectangle on top of our gray background to serve as the email input field. I'll set the corner radius to make it look smoother. Now let's type Enter your email inside the rectangle. This will be our placeholder text. Let's slightly increase the letter spacing to about 9% and lower the opacity so it looks more like a placeholder. Let's create our Submit button using a different approach. Instead of drawing a rectangle, we'll use Auto Layout. First, type Submit next to our input field. Now press Shift+A to wrap it inside a box automatically. Let's add a fill to the button so it stands out. Let's scale it up slightly. Notice how the text stays perfectly centered as we adjust the size. All right, let's wrap this up with a clean and professional footer. First, let's draw a rectangle at the bottom of the page with a height of 12 pixels. This will serve as our gradient line. Now let's add a gradient fill. On the left side, we'll use the same color as our Submit button to keep the design consistent. Next, we'll stretch the line across the entire width of the page to make it fill from left to right. Now let's bring in our links and logo into the footer frame. Let's change the text and icon colors to black. The footer and gradient line are sitting too far down, so we need to move them up slightly. To ensure our gradient line stays at the bottom even when scrolling, let's set its constraints properly. Select the line, go to the Constraints panel, and set it to bottom. Now, let's make sure the line stays in place when scrolling. Go to Prototype Mode, set Scroll Behavior to Fixed Stay in Place. Finally, let's select the entire frame and move it up a little bit for better spacing. There we go, the line moves perfectly with the frame. As promised, let's align the menu text items properly for a clean and structured layout. Click and drag to select all the menu text items. Navigate to the Position tab. Click on Align Bottom to ensure everything is perfectly in line. And that wraps up this tutorial. I hope you found it helpful. If you enjoyed this, make sure to give it a thumbs up and subscribe for more design content. Don't forget to check the project link in the description so you can follow along. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.